How you doing this evening?
What up, Africa?
What's up, bro? I just now realized we're on the eve of a great holiday.
What's that?
Tomorrow's the 4th of July.
Okay.
We got no business sitting here. It's a day off, ain't it?
I just got the 4th of July off work, actually.
But don't you get the day before and the day after and the day of when it falls on a weekend? You don't support labor rights?
Yeah, but like we got my job before Juneteenth was a federal holiday. We got Juneteenth off, and we had to work on the 4th. Yeah, we had to work on the 4th.
Well, I'm for workers' liberation, worker solidarity. I think every holiday and every opportunity for people to not labor, to not work.
Yeah. But then when they made Juneteenth federal holiday, then we got the 4th of July off.
Yeah, well, I guess. Do you celebrate Juneteenth?
Celebrate, I think, is a stretch. I'm off work. Depending on where we are, we'll throw something on the grill.
So that's a tacit yes. I guess, I do Juneteenth in my own way too. So
yeah, I mean, like,
I recognize Juneteenth. I don't like that it's a federal holiday, actually.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a slap in the face.
But what's crazy?
What's that?
Mississippi doesn't honor Juneteenth as a holiday. So state people still have to work.
Mississippi, goddamn. Well, Arizona held out on King Day, but they eventually came on board. So I'm sure Mississippi will catch up.
Or not,
Do you like the new logo or the old one?
What, the flag?
No, I'm gonna take us off, right, and just show the What'd you say?
I think when you took us off, you turned the audio off.
Hold on, let me see if that. Anyway, you saw the picture, right?
Yeah.
And then we had the old one, the original one. One of our listeners and supporters switched it out. Now this is the old one. I'm gonna take us off so you can see the old one. So that's the two things, and I was just wondering if you like the new one or the old one better, because I asked you before and you didn't respond. I don't think.
Yeah, I think if somebody took the time out to do it, this is where I'm just a man. Like, there wasn't enough of a difference that I was like, oh, this thing is changing. So
I think it's a major difference.
Okay.
The white hand with the black. I don't know.
I think if somebody took time out of their day to create something for us, we should use it. Because I just think that's amazing that somebody was like, hey, I wanted to do this for you. And they just took it upon themselves to do it. I like
both images.
Kind.
I like both images that communicate two different things.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I'll let the people decide. I'll put it to a vote, to a public vote. I'll set up something, let the people decide. But anyway, glad to see you. Glad to see you doing well. You done switched up on me. You in a different place.
Yeah, bro. So look, let me tell you. So last week, Miles Garvey had a concussion.
Word?
Ball chasing.
What's it's soccer, right?
Yeah. So in the summer, because it's so hot, they play indoors on a basketball court. So it's called futsal. And playing with an older age group, keeper kind of came out on him quick, and I think the keeper thought that Miles Garvey wouldn't run through him. Miles Garvey did run through him, but hit the floor, bump on the head, all that. Had to go to the emergency room. He was saying, like he was seeing double. Said his vision was really blurry. So we spent a good bit of time in the emergency room, and they was like, yeah, he has a concussion.
Damn.
So, yeah.
So you taking him out? Are you going to allow him to continue to play?
Yeah, no, he's done for this year.
But he going to go back next year?
Well, so he'll go back to grass.
Wow. I'm so really sorry to hear that.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. I'm scared to death, So the boy, he was saying that he was scared, but I was like, bro, like I'm scared too. Like I've never done this before. Like, I'm trying to be cool because like we together, but like we're all afraid and we're just gonna do it scared. So I was like, bro, you gotta at least train in the helmet shit. You know what I'm saying? So
they have soccer helmets exist?
They make a soccer helmet. It's called like a halo or some shit. So I was like, bro, like you gotta train in that.
Oh wow. Did they push back on that?
Who, Miles Garvey?
Yeah.
Absolutely. He was like, he's not doing it. And then I was like, bro, they come in different colors. And he was like, oh, so I can get one in red? And I was like, yeah, you can get it in red. And then we can get it, like we can get you a logo made and we can get the logo put on it. Like we can do all of that. Right. So I'm like fully invested in getting him this helmet. Right. So while I'm looking at the helmet, I was like, what are the reviews on it? Does anybody else make one? There's no data that says that the helmet reduces concussions.
Yeah, same thing with the football helmets.
Yeah, so it was just like...
It's for placebo.
Yeah.
But then there's kind of a my sons weren't into ball chasing, but they were very physically active. And my son, my oldest, when he was in high school, shattered his knee skateboarding and had a metal rod and a plate in his knee. And what can you do? You can't. You gotta let him out there. You gotta let him live.
Yeah.
And he was on crutches for a few months, and then right back at it again.
Yeah.
And about, I don't know, maybe 6-8 months, he was back on the skateboard. Yeah, and he did the one thing we forbade him to do, the one thing we told him not to do.
What was that?
Don't skateboard in the rain. So if he would take the train to class, but the train would let him off and he would have to catch the bus. So it was a train and a bus to get to his public school. And he got off and he didn't want to catch the bus or wait on the bus. He wanted to get off the L and skateboard. And we were like, fine, but if it's raining, walk or take the bus. So he was actually on his way home or on his way to work from school, and it was raining and he didn't want to lose time, so he's skateboarding in the rain, and that board went one way, he went the other. So yeah, I mean, children, man, we suffer so much because their pain is our pain.
Yeah, I mean, like, cause bro, like, you know, like, and this is like extremely. So this girl, not this girl that I heard about, but a girl whose name I know what she looks like. We might have had a class or two together. Went to high school with her. Her son bumped his head really bad and went to sleep and never woke up. Swear to God. Like, this is not something that's the rumor. Like, this is a thing that happened, right? And oh man, I'm tearing up. So when we get to the hospital, you know, Miles Garvey was like, man, I'm so tired. Like, I just want to lay down. I was like, no, champ, like, let's just stay up and talk for a bit, you know. And he was like, just let me lay down for a minute. Man, I felt like John Q. You know what I'm saying? I stepped out the room and, you know, like, it was a nurse right there. I was like, hey, my man, somebody need to come in here and check out my son.
Right, yeah.
And he was like, yeah, well, have you seen somebody? I was like, bro, that don't mean nothing to me. Somebody need to come in here and check on my son. He bumped his head and now he's saying he's sleepy. And, you know, the dude, like, man, shout out to medical professionals for being kind and not, you know, kind of getting into it or whatever. But, like, he came in there, he checked him out, and, like, right behind him, like, 2 more folks came in and just kind of talked to me, checked him out, and was like, you know, like, what has he been doing today? And that's when it hit me that it was about 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night. And the boy had been up since maybe 6 a.m. straight. Like, went to soccer camp, didn't take a nap, played with his brother, then went out and played another match. And it was just like, oh, he's not gonna die. He's sleepy. He's tired. Like, he'll be okay. And yeah, man. So I was not very friendly or receptive to what they had going. And yeah, so.
Well, my position has always been, if my children want to engage in sports for their own edification and enjoyment, I'm fully behind it. I don't support sports for the enrichment and entertainment of the white majority.
Yeah.
That's kind of been my rule of thumb. But I also say all the time, in our efforts to protect our children's bodies, we destroy their minds. You know, especially my generation, which is a little bit before yours. Our parents, Gen X, our parents let us off the porch, man. They sent us on our way. We were latchkey and out in these streets. And then when we had kids, we sheltered the shit out of them.
Yeah.
And it's really crazy when I see Gen X people sharing these memes, blaming the internet and social media and video games because their children are all couch potatoes, or their children don't know how to navigate the public transit system or can't go anywhere and can't do anything. And they pretend like it's the technology, because we had game consoles when I was a kid too.
Yeah.
But I know my peers, especially the professional, you know, these PhDs, master's degree, professional Gen X's, you know, really fucking lock their children in the house.
Yeah.
Because of all these various fears they had.
Like, one of the things that, like, I wish, you know, like, you talk about public transportation, like, that's really not a, now, you know, where we are, there is the option, but, like, the bus doesn't necessarily go to any of the places that they would want to go, you know. And it also doesn't run with the regularity that we would, that like, in New York, you missed the bus, there's another one, coming. In Chicago, there's a bus. But that's not a thing here. But the thing that I find myself doing is like really encouraging the boys, hey bro, like you can kind of get out and move around in this space. And because the community that, well, I don't even think we do not live in what I would consider the community that I lived in prior. Because where we lived before, like they would, I would pick them up on Friday and they would essentially be hanging out, they would be hanging out the windows, like throwing their hands up at little kids in the neighborhood. And by the time I pulled in the driveway, there were like 6 bikes pulling in behind, and they was like, hey, can we go? Like, you don't want to know, like we ready to go, like open the garage so we get our bikes. And like that was more of an insular neighborhood. They were able to move about in a way, and there were other little boys in the neighborhood and eventually little girls in the neighborhood that they would move about, with and around, and they got out, now it turns into
The fuck is that?
I don't know. I don't even know what NGA mean in circumspect.
I think that means nigga.
Oh. That was weird.
Weirdos, man.
Yeah, man. Hey, man, peace be upon you, bro.
And sure he did it for attention.
Yeah, and I gave it to him. Like, hey, bro, I'm sure you got a lot happening in your life, man. I'm sorry that, that I can't be the person.
Or maybe nothing happening in your life.
Yeah. But like, so, like now in this place where we stay, there are some things that are closer to them, but because they don't know anybody really in the community, they're less apt to just kind of get out and move without me. Cause I really want, I really want them to kind of get out and move about, because of the things that we've talked about and the way that, like, we've discussed, the way that they're, the way that they will be okay moving about. And yeah, it's just interesting, man. Like, it's one of the things that I appreciate about this community that we have in the show, is an opportunity to talk about what I would say is the reality of parenting. Because I don't think people challenge each other in love and in community enough. I also don't think that we like talk about these things that we're going and saying them out loud in a way that, another thing can be heard. It can challenge what we're thinking, and it can push or pull us to do that next right thing, right? Like, how do we really get our children to engage with their communities in a real way? And how do we get them to hold us accountable as parents in a real way that, locked in the house isn't necessarily safe, So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the most the primary obligation of a parent after meeting the fundamental needs of a child, the biological, physical needs of the child, is building a community around a child.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hear people talk about everything from their multi-generational or wealth and breaking curses and college funds and savings funds. And there was some weird ass woman who took her kids out and gave them all LLCs and built businesses, and people were going viral. And what I've always consciously done, especially since we moved around a lot, was build a community around my children, and made sure that it was physical, familial, social, cultural, ideological, and I cultivated it and cherished it. And now my children, because they're older now, they're both, one's an adult and the other's a teen. Now they navigate that community themselves, and they start, and they're conscious and have always had community. So they're out there starting to cultivate and engage themselves and value community. I think that now it's about the most valuable things you can give your children are shit that doesn't have a price tag on it. And we get so preoccupied with this, making sure they're given the shit that does come with the price tag. We begin to devalue the shit that we believe comes for free or comes naturally, but requires social capital and input. So, yeah. And like I always say, what I've observed from my own generation is just the blatant hypocrisy that they have. We're talking about how Gen X is Pharaoh and Gen X don't mess with Gen X because we were latchkey kids and stuff. And we seem to retained all of the deficits from our youth in the 80s and 90s. And we've brought forward none of the benefits of that. But anyway, I'm glad the boy's okay. And it's like I said, there's always risk, reward, that opportunity cost. And
I mean, like, you know, I definitely was scared to death that they got hurt, and still, you know what I'm saying, like, just navigating the all of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, really navigating the all of it is just
like, and you know, when my children were hurt, especially coming up, it was a weird sensation because I was trained and worked in trauma. So I always kind of go through this, become methodical when my kids are harmed or hurt, injure themselves. I kind of go into this methodical stage to resolve the issue. And then it kind of hits me later, you know, so for the stitches and the cast and the surgeries and the x-rays and helping to position them when they're getting their x-rays and stuff. Because my wife, she's able to kind of be there for comfort and stuff. And I'm more like, hey, you know, we got to address the thing. And then later that day or later that night, I'd be like, that's when it hit me. So it was always a weird sensation. But, you know, thankfully, it wasn't an ongoing thing, but it's something I could relate to, especially with so I'm told, because I don't have any daughters, that boys just reckless, mad reckless.
Hey, man, listen, bro.
And you come home, they tear up your house too. So,
hey, boy, I love it. Like, man, listen, bro.
Man,
I have no issue being held accountable for my sexism and my patriarchy. I have no issue. None. But man, when you talk about like the love of seeing my boys be maniac and menaces.
Man, listen, I just said to my 15-year-old a couple of days ago, I said, you know what I fantasize about doing? And he's like, what? I said, I want to take you on a tour of the house, of the things you've done to this house, the things that I've repaired and things that I have on my repair list. You know, and it could start in your room. And I'll be like, you see that hole in the drywall? You see that light fixtures, that half hanging off light fixture? And you see that floorboard that's chipped? And I want to take him. I say, you see that railing that's a little askew? I fantasize about taking him on a tour. But his brother's moved out. And his brother I don't have enough authority to get him to do it. But I got a couple of more years. I've always thought to myself, I'd like to give them a tour, a guided tour of all the damage they've done. But I haven't gotten around to do it. I just do it when I threaten to do. I don't know if it's a threat.
Yeah,
I offer to give him a guided tour, especially when he's trying to ask me for something. Like, bro, man, you didn't try to tear this sucker down from its rafters.
Listen, bro, they'll be in their room playing. I don't know what they playing, bro, but like whatever it is, all you hear is the house alarm, the alarm on the house, glass break sensor activated. Glass break sensor
activated. They tear your shit up. You know, like, and then there's something worse that happens after the physical destruction. You know, Jared Ball gave me a terminology. I went through something that I had no word to describe.
All right.
And then I was just having a conversation with Jared, and he casually said, that's what I guess, with all that schooling, Professor Ball said something. I'm like, and it was Eureka. And I had to go through this whole epiphany live on the computer, live feed, because I went through an epiphany like, wow, you know, because they go through physically destroying your house to socially destroying your house. So my oldest son, when he was graduating and getting his own place and going off to college, and Jared called it soiling the nest. They start asserting their adulthood, asserting their manhood, and they ain't quite crossed the finish line. So you ever see one of those Olympic races and the dude raise his arms before he go through the thing? And like Usain Bolt was famous for putting his arms up before he crossed that line. My son did that with adulthood. He was running head first to adulthood, and he thought he was the Usain Bolt of independence. And so they start acting like full-grown adults when they still cheering, and just start acting out. Like, you can't tell them nothing, you can't ask them nothing. They don't want nothing from you except everything, you know. And so that was a funny situation with my son. I'm like, man, we used to get along. I used to be cool with this dude. What was that? Too Short had a song, "It Was All Good," just a week ago.
Yeah,
you know, I was like, yo, man, me and this dude used to be down. That Jay-Z and Too Short had a song that kind of like, you know, what is with you looking, talking different, you leering at me and shit. You're not laughing at my jokes. So they go from physical destruction of your home, and you're like, oh, okay, it's just a baby. He don't know what he's doing, to social. But you ain't there yet. And I don't want to give you any spoilers, fatherhood spoilers.
Bro. So look, Miles Garvey would just talk bad about me, bro. You gotta think he 11 now, and I'm talking about like he was just like, you a bum. I could beat you. Like, it was just like, bro, I'll pick you up by your neck with my left hand. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and then I saw Chris Paul's son talking to Chris Paul.
Who's Chris Paul?
Oh, ball chaser.
Oh, no.
And telling him how he could beat him in basketball. And then it just hit me. Like, oh, this is what all of them do.
I know. I have to tell you this. People are primates, and it is an evolutionary necessity. You know, my wife could never let go of those little bright-eyed, curious, inquisitive, high-pitched voice little darlings. She could never let them go. But them tall, gangly, musty, hunched over kids, she's like, okay, yeah, let's pack them up, let's send them off. So it's evolution. It's evolution. That's why, you know, most mammalian creatures, they got those big eyes and the soft little voice, and they're so vulnerable. It's mammalian evolution. So they have to make it easy. So I didn't have a name for it, but I'm like, listen, he's just instinctively acting in a way that'll make it easy for him to leave and easy for us to let him go. So once I knew, like I said, I saw it happening, but I didn't have a word for it until Jared was like, yeah, it's called soiling the nest.
Soiling the nest.
Yes.
But yeah, man.
So Anyway, but that starts. So when the boys start, especially young men, start asserting themselves and all that. And it's so funny. I just came back from Kansas City, and my son has a cousin. And every year we would go back to Kansas City, and we have all these pictures and these videos of him and his cousin prior to puberty. They'd play, they had little remote control cars, and they'd be climbing trees. And then, like, when they hit 13, 14, the pictures we have of them are sitting next to each other on the phone. You know, they'd be in my Uncle Chris's backyard catching toads and, you know, feeding the fish in the creek. They'd be having a ball. And now when they come to town, sup. And they just sit there. Now they interact with each other instead of playing and running and climbing trees. They bond by sitting next to each other on their phones together, shoulder to shoulder, just looking down.
Just looking down.
Yeah, so that's the evolution. But anyway, bless all their hearts. All that to say, I'm really glad little Miles is okay, and just keep taking precautions. And I'm glad you didn't turtle up, and you still allow him to get out there and take risk and run circles around them little white kids. I said it, you didn't, so you're all right. All you got to do is like, hey, you know, the views and opinions expressed by my co-host. Anyway, I wanted to talk about something that's going to put a lot of people on blast. A lot of people listening on blast, especially the people who really think they got shit figured out. And I just want to, because as a nation, as a community, as a people, you know, some shit's about to come down the pipe. You know, some shit's about to, because I think we're losing ground. And I know that's hard to imagine because most of the people here today, like I still have relatives alive this day that were alive in Jim Crow. Like my mother, my great aunt, my grandmother's baby sister. I got, you know, an aunt and uncle-in-laws in their late 80s and 90s. These people came to adulthood under Jim Crow. You know, I'm able to talk to and interact with people who were told to go sit in the back of the bus, you know. And like I said, people who could turn on the nightly news in black and white, the little black and white TV, and the newscaster will be like, some bestial Negro is on the loose. And the local constable is hunting down another bestial Negro who's upset the harmony of our community. I mean, that's the way that the local newscaster and radio news used to talk in Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, where my peoples came out of when they came over here with the exodusters and came over here for some free land and seed and grain to start their farm.
They still talking like that in Jackson. Like, yeah. For real.
Yeah. But I'm saying where we were born into that, and we started seeing shit like, we're not our ancestors, you can get these hands, or which is really absurd to me, where people are like, yeah, we didn't get nothing from civil rights, and downplaying the struggle and the contributions of our ancestors who were not revolutionary, who were not radical, but just trying to create some open space where we can get radical and get revolutionary. But anyway, I wanted to talk about scapegoats, because there's a term when you first come into conscious that I used to hear all the time in the 90s, and I almost never hear a phrase called divide and conquer. And I know why the phrase kind of went out of favor, because divide and conquer, when it used to be an observation and understanding and a call to create countermeasures against our enemies, divide and conquer devolved into a phrase that was used to allow for internal dysfunction and internal predation. So you have dysfunctional leaders, dysfunctional organizations, dysfunctional ideologies, dysfunctional and predatory individuals within our community. And it went from divide and conquer, went from condemning the actions and subverting the actions of our oppressors to divide us, to preventing us from critiquing, criticizing, or even expelling harmful and treasonous people from within. It's kind of like the no snitching thing. No snitching used to be about protecting those who acted in rebellion and resisting against the community, to protecting those who preyed on the community from within the community. So these concepts got warped, they got captured, and then they kind of get abandoned. You know, so I noticed with the idea that because the whole scapegoat thing is a tactic of dividing and conquering. Scapegoating, people engaged in scapegoating are dividing and conquering us. But we can't even talk about in the present tense or future tense of divide and conquer, because we are in a state of being divided and we're under conquest. So we are divided and we are conquered in real time. So it's not about avoiding being divided and conquered. It's about accepting the fact that we are divided and conquered, and we have to overcome the division and the conquest. And one of the biggest hindrances to Black people overcoming the division and the conquest is this phenomenon of scapegoating. So that's why I wanted to talk about the various individuals, populations, and entities that we scapegoat. And scapegoat is basically identifying a problem and then targeting a population or an individual who's not responsible for that problem. Or identifying a problem that doesn't exist in order to refocus your energies away from actual problems that don't exist. So that's all I say. That's why I thought this would be an interesting for our discussion and to open it up to the community, because I'm sure every single person, including myself and you and people listening, we all engage in scapegoating. No. So I want to start with, I don't want to go with the obvious scapegoats. I think we will spin them up, but I'm going to bring up the very first victim of scapegoating.
Okay.
And it's going to surprise you. You ready?
Okay.
And it's going to go against everybody's concept of scapegoat, the government. And when I say the government, because the government is an entity that has power over us. But we forget also that the government exists, is of the people, by, for, and of the people. And so another word for government is public. The public sphere or the public arena is another word that is synonymous with government. And so we tend to look at the authoritarian components of the government, military, high level politicians, and the local police. And we tend to ignore the regulatory agencies, the low level bureaucrats, and the lower components of the government, the inspectors, the regulators, the engineers that are there providing vital services to us that we take for granted. We lump them all in because the government is multifaceted, and we tend to blame the government for shit that the government didn't do and refuse to give government credit for the things that it does do. So a lot of times, like, one thing is education. Public school teachers are government bureaucrats. And we blame the teachers are grooming our children. The right wing is attacking the teachers. Even the left and progressive tend to attack the teachers. Working class people, they got summers off. They get vacations off. So teachers got it easy. And you find these low-level government bureaucrats undercompensated, often under-resourced and overworked. And they blame, and the schools are deteriorating. The schools are inadequate to meet the needs of our children in our communities. And we blame the low because we see the teachers. You don't see the federal level. You don't see the budgetary level, the administrative level. You only see the people when you walk up in that school, you're like, these teachers ain't shit. Because my child's not learning, and it's the teacher's fault. When the teachers are also being targeted and victimized, and the whole public school system is under the attack by private investment, private corporations, and the high level bureaucrats, the elected representatives that they elected. So one of the main form, and then another one is that scapegoated is low level bureaucrats, everything from the DMV, parking regulations, and meter maids. And you'll notice that when it comes to the government, that a lot of these government officials that get directly assaulted, that get directly attacked, even though people be like, I hate Donald Trump, I hate Joe Biden, I hate the Congress. You can't put a finger on none of them motherfuckers. But the black woman that works at the DMV, the black woman that's out here writing tickets, the black city or state bus driver. So these low-level, unarmed, real no authority bureaucrats that we blame, these teachers that we blame, that we can put hands on, and we see them as representatives of the state when they are low-level bureaucrats who are as much victimized by the state, and their contributions to the larger society get roped in with the high level. So oftentimes we blame the government for behaviors. Oh, they taking our taxes. And the problem is not that they're taking your taxes. Profits, you'll have a person that'll look at a tax hike, like they just raised taxes on gasoline in the city. And you'll have a person look at a tax hike and rage, oh, they're raising taxes. But they say nothing about record profits. I mean, just ask yourself, when's the last time you've seen a rank and file working class citizen slam and flip something over or rage about record level profits? And you at least, y'all don't exercise it, but you have the capacity to reorient, direct, and even influence the distribution of taxes. You know, there's been two progressive tax, really three, but three progressive taxation bills introduced in this city in the last 5 to 6 years. And each one of them got voted down because people just against taxes. And at the same time, multinational corporations, the currency exchange, the commodities exchange, which is just as deadly and just as corrupt as Wall Street, but nobody talks about Wall Street. I mean, everybody talks about Wall Street. Nobody talks about the commodities exchange. And the commodities exchange manipulation is much more wicked than Wall Street exchange, because commodities is food and the things we use day to day. But that's a whole nother discussion. I won't go off that. But you don't hear people raging about that. And people don't even pay attention that, oh, my tax dollars are being taken and wasted and squandered. And who's determining where your tax dollars go? So anyway, the government is often scapegoated. In areas where we should be targeting, attacking, and resisting the government, we don't. And then in the areas where the government is not to blame, or in the areas where the government is not doing harm, but actually providing a service, that's where we rise up and want to attack. So that's my first scapegoat of the evening.
I'm going to let you cook. I'm with
All right. So, and you know, just tell me, because I thought that people would be like, oh, the government, I'm against the government. But most things that come with the public title are underfunded and attacked. And I am a proponent of public space, public institutions, I think we should take people control. And that's why the private sector works so hard to discredit and dismantle the public sector, because of the people's potential for power. The people have surrendered control over public institutions. But we still, in this time, which is drying up, have the potential to reassert our control and dominance over public institutions. But we just say they're corrupt, they're inept, they're dysfunctional. And we denounce them as that. And most of that corrupt, inept, dysfunctional is because the government does its fucking job. When the government does its job and we benefit from it, and that work and benefit is essentially invisible. So then we take it for granted. And then the government, those multinational corporations, begin to erode the public sector, food inspectors, So when you're able to go to the grocery store and buy food that isn't hyper processed or contaminated, you just say, hey, the food is what it's supposed to be. But the moment there's a rat turd in your food or a recall, E. coli, everybody's like attacking. But when there's no E. coli, nobody's saying, they just go about it. And the corporations and the private media set up that relationship. So I think that the real source of the problem with the public sector is that we've allowed our trust in public sector to erode because we've allowed our power within the public sector to erode. So we need to reassert our position in the public. Yeah, class. Yeah. So, but this is a big one. So actually, I think I got most people when I say that the government gets scapegoated. So that's one. And we can move on to the second scapegoat victim.
All right, let's go.
All right. So this one's a little easier to identify, and many of us can pat ourselves on the back. But there's kind of a cluster. A lot of these scapegoats will overlap. But because welfare is another one of those government scapegoats. Welfare destroyed the black family. That's another thing. We should all be pro-welfare, pro-social safety net, pro government assistance, pro-Section 8, all that shit. But anyway, single mothers are a scapegoat that we blame for everything from the corruption of the youth to the larger destruction of the larger community, the culture. And I mean, you could probably say women. So that's another scapegoat that I think we're more familiar with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I think the government one is like jarring when you hear it. But I also think I would like to think that our folks are smarter than to really ride with, feminism and, like basically these attacks on women as being things. I do have one interesting one that this is making me think about is when you were talking about government, and that's one of the things that I was writing down, was how essentially the right have attacked things that were like central to black folk emerging post Civil Rights Act. And like the post office, federal agencies, the DEI pieces, like the way that those things are being attacked now, are those things essentially what got black people into the middle class, right? Like, a school teacher, post office worker, those types of things where black folk were able to get access to jobs that otherwise they would have never gotten access to, which really catapulted black folks into, again, notice the air quotes, make sure both of them in there, the middle class, is just super, super interesting the way that those things get attacked and the lack of vigor that I see black folks in general, the Congressional Black Caucus in particular, raise hell about, right? Like, but for DEI programs, get black people out of the South to get master's degrees and doctorates, but for the post office, but for factories that were getting federal contracts, like I can't think of another space in my community that Black folk were able to kind of benefit from and move in this place where I was raised, you know.
Well, there's the other side to scapegoating, which is false. Well, there's a component, false attribution. And false attribution can work both that ways, meaning you're praising something for doing something it didn't do, or you're condemning something for doing something it didn't do. So that's another part of it that we can touch on, because you're correct about it allowing Black people to elevate their status and standing and secure some level of security and material comforts within this system. But a lot of times with that, we oversold what that meant and what that the reverberation, like the whole trickle down concept. Like you see,
one of the things that I think about is not as true for us, but you know, our grandparents being boomers, right? Like that was it. You know what I'm saying? Like you get a job at the post office, man, you could buy a white person's house, right? Like you could integrate a neighborhood with that. So, you know, like I just think about, again, in my very specific place, like thinking about Jackson, like the old Black folks, for me, like old Black people, for me, federal jobs is what got them out of the neighborhoods, you know. So yeah,
which is tragic.
Yeah,
you know,
which is go ahead.
We often during that era mistaked pacification for empowerment. So if you're out there fighting, and they give you something to stop you from fighting, as opposed to giving you something as a concession or a surrender as a result of your fighting. So many of this Black middle class was not about elevating the race, but creating a buffer.
Yeah.
You know, so
or what is what you say is that Dale Jones quote, you know, loosening up to get a tighter grip, right? Like,
yeah.
So and, really, so they really gave you that thing in order to really, you know, and I don't think the dominant culture is so smart that they have these grand master plans. I think it's just the way that capitalism works, right? Like, I'm not blind enough to believe that there's a cabal of white folk that sit around and say, okay, we're going to turn this into the ghetto. Like I just
agree with that.
Yeah, I just don't. I just
think
don't.
that they do. I have to say that this is deliberate. I don't think there's anything natural, because that's what they try to say. Yeah, I think there were literally people sitting down in rooms to architects. There are literally architects of the ghetto, the physical, political, policy, ideological, multimedia. I think a lot of times we as African people project our own humanity onto our enemies and oppressors. And one of the saddest things about the Tuskegee experiment, and I hate calling it's not an experiment. I don't want to say that. The Tuskegee atrocity, the Tuskegee crime against humanity, was that those sharecroppers, those African people, when they saw those white men in lab coats and that black nurse in her little nurse's outfit, they thought to themselves, when they were told what happened to them, they really couldn't conceptualize someone doing that, because one of the men literally said, I would never do that to them. Like, who sits down and comes up with a half-century program of infecting whole communities and sit back with the means to help a community and hold back a means to help a people and watch them deteriorate. Who does that? So yeah, I think it was planned and executed and deliberate. I don't think it was by accident whatsoever. I don't think.
Go ahead. So in Jackson, in particular, I think this is the other thing that I think we should be thinking about, right? I think that when the banks say, "Hey, we're not gonna loan money over here," all the other things that happen are byproducts of the lack of intentionality, right? Like one of the things that we talk about a lot is if you are not actively trying to help Black people, what will happen is your solution will ultimately become oppressive. I
think that's your good natured call. I think you're projecting onto them.
No, I don't, because of course I wouldn't. But what I'm saying is,
I don't think
the neighborhood. Go ahead.
Where you say, well, if I engage in an action that is not consciously in the benefit of Black people, by default, it will hurt them. I disagree with that. I think that the systems and institutions of capitalism and white dominations have targeted Black people, have deliberately, consciously targeted Black people for subversion and destruction. I think that the status of Black people within this society was predetermined, and they commit an enormous amount of resources, think tanks, scholars, research, laboratories, Pentagon officials and Pentagon officials and corporate boardrooms, where they think about how to sustain this system. This system is not natural and it's not self-sustaining, and it doesn't run on default status.
You're so using your same thing about the way the government is scapegoated. I don't think for 1 second that I'm sorry to keep talking about little kids soccer, but I find it so fascinating. In our club, there are so few Black kids, right? It's essentially the only club in the city, right? The city is 80% Black. And they are, I'm talking about so few. Right? Miles Garvey for 2 years was the only Black kid on his team. Right? When Black people left the city with these federal jobs and moved into Clinton, moved into wherever else that they moved into, the other clubs that white people were in died. Right? They do not intentionally go out and try to recruit Black kids to play soccer because Black kids play other things. Then they raise the prices of playing, and I don't think that they sat around and were like, "Hey, we raising these prices to keep the Black kids out."
What would you need what evidence would you need in order to conclude that they do that? That it's not accident?
I would need to see the meeting notes. Right? Because what happens is it's out of sight, out of mind.
So seeing the outcome and living through the outcome is not adequate to you.
No.
You need to believe that these consistent outcomes that have happened over generations and centuries.
But it hasn't happened over generations. It hasn't happened over generations. Okay, yes, I'm going to tell you how I know it hasn't.
Okay.
Because there was an all-Black club in the city that ran shit for a long time. What happened to that black club?
I don't know. I wasn't there. But I can tell you something. I can tell you what happened. The same thing that happened to every other black club around the nation. The same thing that happened to every black community, black bank, black organization. The same thing that happens to any formation that's trying to act in the interest of African people in this country throughout our history.
So you believe?
I don't go off of belief.
Okay. Well, you don't have any data to support it, so
yes,
you can only go.
Yes, I do.
What data? Like what? You can give me anecdotal evidence, but like you can't give me.
No,
you don't have a thing.
I don't go off of antidotes are valuable. You know, there's a lot of things we try to dismiss, but antidotes do have their value. But no.
Yeah, but
there is hard.
But your anecdote
data.
We
have a long history of
everything that you can prove with an anecdote, I can prove with another one. So we got to find whatever the thing is that exists in the middle.
You can prove that white people, as a population, have not preyed upon African people as a population.
Not saying that. I'm not going to let you finish that because that's not a thing that I've said. I've not said that African people, that white folks have not preyed on African people.
That wasn't my question.
But that's not what I said. So even if you start, no, we're not gonna do that. If you started with a thing that's not true, we can't continue on.
I didn't say. How can a question be untrue? I was asking you a question.
You said that I don't think that white people haven't preyed on black people.
I was asking you a question.
I don't think
I will
that.
put it in the form of a question. So when I say you don't think, I was trying to ask a question.
Okay.
But I'll put it in a more obvious form of a question. I would like to know that if you accept the fact that the white majority in the United States has preyed upon African people in all areas of human relation without exception, that our relationship has been and to this day is one of a predatory, exploitative, perpetual attack relationship.
I believe that.
Okay. Then I don't think we can argue the minutia, but that's my conclusion.
Yeah.
That's
what I'm saying. Like, again,
that it wasn't conscious because predation is conscious.
Okay. So what I'm saying and what I will continue to say is the same way that you look at government and say government is scapegoated. Thank you, Madeline. That government is scapegoated in a lot of ways. I think the same thing is true when we look at policies in a lot of ways, that like even in a city like Jackson, again, that is 80% black, right? That's overwhelmingly black. They make rules that negatively impact black people in the city. And the government does that because they are trying to fix another problem. And because they are not being absolutely intentional about, hey, we want to make sure this thing works for black people, you end up harming black people.
Can I say a quote from Professor William Mackey comes to mind? He said there are many black people who believe that white folks will do right by us just as soon as they figure out how. And there's another in the research of Michael Parenti said that Europeans had stated that they built their empire through I forgot the term that he used, but basically it was an accidental empire, that they didn't consciously say, hey, let's go about the conquest of the world. But they saw a resource they needed here. They saw a conflict they could resolve there. They saw a territory or a passageway. You know, we needed a route to the Orient. So we had to take this. Oops, a fucking daisy. We set up a colony. And then as we set up the colony, we saw that the colony was vulnerable. So we had to expand the colony. And when we expanded the colony, we needed to build the economy. And as we built the economy, that afforded more. And so white folks built a global empire through what Greenspan called irrational exuberance. Like it wasn't a conscious, deliberate thing, that their whole empire and their whole system was a series of unfortunate events. And I'm saying, no, this is conscious and deliberate attack. And we've seen these people mobilize more than once for global warfare and global conquest. We've seen them carry out acts like the Iraq War. I'm sorry, I'm gonna start using proper terminology. The U.S. illegal, unsanctioned invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan was planned decades in advance. It was planned decades in advance. It wasn't like, oh, they thought it was a false accusation and one inept president was looking for weapons of mass destruction. But all I'm saying is, one more thing. As Chancellor Williams observed from 200 years of history, in 2000, and then we can just get on. But this is my last point on this issue. Chancellor Williams studied Black-white relationships for 2,000 years, consistently, of interactions between Black people and white people, and people off white people, Arabs, East Asians. And he came to the conclusion that white people are our eternal, bitter enemy and our implacable foe. Eternal, bitter enemy and our implacable foe. And he said, this is not the rantings of a wide-eyed militant. This is a scientific, scholarly conclusion drawn from the 2,000 years, from decades of studying and recording 2,000 years of African engagement with the West, with people who identify as white. That was the conclusion he reached. And I have not encountered any time in history or any experience of African people as a population interacting with white folks as a population where that conclusion, that analysis has not been reinforced and upheld.
All right, so neighborhood I grew up in, all Black neighborhood. White people never lived in that neighborhood. It was essentially built to keep Black folks from integrating. Right? We're going to build you a brand new neighborhood. You can go out there and stay. It'll be real nice for you. Right? That was intentional. When Black people left, because they got those federal jobs and they got jobs at Vickers and they got jobs at Packard and they became postmen and they moved away, I don't think white people sat around and was like, all right, let's figure out a way to screw this neighborhood up. I don't think that happened. I think Black people didn't have the money to keep it. And white people was just like, we're not going to put money over there. I think the water situation in Jackson that everybody tries to attribute to like white people sitting around and being like, yo, we finna sabotage the water of the city of Jackson. I don't think that happened. I think nobody had the money to fix it. And people just kept kicking the can down the road. So like, I don't disagree that white people do terrible things. I also can say that if we are not actively attempting to repair those things, they just keep getting worse, not because white people got to keep their hand in it for tearing it up. Like, that's all I'm saying.
I don't think the record backs you up on that. I think it's psychological projection is what you're engaged in. Because
that's what you believe, and that's not what my lived experience says.
Well, I've encountered a lot of really good and noble white people. I've been a student.
But again, Diallo, I'm not talking about how good white people are.
Revolutionaries. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about.
Again, I'm not talking about white people at all. I am talking about the reality of the situation that I live in. And
environmental racism.
Diallo, you're talking about really big things. I'm talking about very specific things. I do think they poisoned the water in Flint. I don't think that's what happened in Jackson.
They didn't poison the water in Flint. The contamination of the water was a byproduct of their racism and attack on Black people. It's literally like fallout. They took away.
So you think they were sitting around like, hey, let's do some fallout? Or did they make a decision?
They were sitting around saying, let's do some fallout. What they were sitting around and had determined to do is to take away.
You're saying what I'm saying.
Control.
Stop right there. If you say that you don't think they were sitting around saying, let's do some fallout, we agree.
How did the water in Flint become contaminated?
You just said there was some fallout.
The water in Flint was a byproduct of them taking away political power from the local black governance. They wanted to withdraw black people's ability to govern themselves locally. So they took power away from the elected officials and bureaucrats and gave it to a city manager. And the city manager reprioritized the budget and took money away so that Flint was buying water from Detroit water system and said, we're going to get water from the local contaminated water source and put it, and it eroded the lead pipes. So those are called cascading issues. So that Flint water crisis was a byproduct of white predation, racism, and racist attacks. So even that, saying that it was not an accident, because if you take away people's power to govern themselves and you take away and redirect their resources towards your own interests and take it away from them. So yes, even
did they sit down? Did they sit down? So I'm asking you a question.
It's worse.
Did white people sit down and say, hey, let's destroy the water in Flint to hurt black people? Do you believe that happened?
It wasn't the.
That's a yes or no question. Do you believe that white people?
Then yes. Okay. If you have to put it,
so we just disagree.
Terms, if you can't just say what it was, you have to.
Again, Diallo, that's all I'm saying. All the gray that you're attempting to add is the same thing that I'm saying with a whole lot fewer words. I don't think they sat around and was like, yo, we finna make all the black people sick. I think what they did was made a decision that made all the black people sick, and that was just a happy ending for them.
What was that decision rooted in?
You just laid it all out, Diallo. I'm not arguing. We're not arguing any other facts.
So you said they made a decision. But okay.
Yeah.
It's just okay. I do think that white people deliberately and consciously conspire against us. And conspiracies are real. And white people conspire to hold power. And they conspire to keep black people out of power. We're under a campaign of genocide, hyper exploitation, and exclusion. And I don't think any of it, not one component of it, is through accident. I think if white folks simply said, hey, we're just going to do us and do what we want to do, black people would have surpassed them long ago. And they know and understand that. And we have documented history from private industry whistleblowers and government sanctioned government officials who were whistleblowers. Every single time, I don't care if it's the banking, educational, entertainment industry, shipping industry, the defense industry. Every time they go undercover to do some investigation, it always comes that they prey upon us, our eternal bitter enemy and our implacable foes. And it concerns me that any African existing on planet Earth in 2024 can conclude that, well, some of it's just them not paying attention or them not minding the store or us not being diligent enough as a people to make sure. Oops-a-daisy.
Bro, you keep adding things that I'm not saying. Like, I don't understand what the argument is.
When the United States dropped Agent Orange on Vietnam, did they intend to set a cycle of high level of deformities and biological disruption of the Vietnamese people?
No.
But they did that by accident.
Yes. We trying to kill all the trees so that these folks can't hide. Oh shit, everybody got cancer. Well, that works too. I think that's what white people do. I don't think they're so smart that they are.
Do you have any examples of accidental positivity?
No. Rap music, maybe capitalism when they give a nigga some money, but like, no.
How has that been positive for our people?
What you mean?
How have wealthy black people benefited the black masses?
The black masses will tell you that's their example for being.
I'm not asking the black masses though. I'm asking you.
Oh, I'm telling you, ain't nothing good come out of that. But the black masses will tell you that it's been good.
But it would go to say if there are some unforeseen consequences, which there are books talking about this. I just talked about Chalmers Johnson's book, Blowback. There are unforeseen consequences, or what they call blowback, to imperialist, racist, white hegemonic, and capitalist activities. But to say that if it's unforeseen and unpredicted, it would say that at least some percentage of those unforeseen outcomes would be positive or beneficial.
Ain't nothing good gonna come from a poison tree, bro.
If it's accidental, something good can come. You know how many remedies and cures and treatments or ailments came from plants that were otherwise be defined as poisonous?
The only one I can think of is Viagra.
Okay. I guess, but I'm not even talking about biochemical remedies. There are several medicinal treatments that come from poisonous plants.
Oh, I don't know anything about those.
Alcohol is poisonous, but you put it on a wound, and it's an astringent. It'll clean out a wound. And you know, like X-rays were accidental. Wilhelm Röntgen, the inventor or the man who founded X-rays, he did it completely by accident. And then he proceeded to irradiate his wife and everybody around him. He and his wife and many people around him in the early radiology field died of horrible cancers and mutations because they were playing with something. They were completely Madame Curie or with, you know, who also made great.
I got one. When you said Madame Curie, you made me think about it. A happy accident with black folks. What's her name?
Loretta Lacks.
Yeah, Henrietta Lacks. Yeah, Henrietta Lacks.
Yes.
So like, we don't care nothing about black folks. We'll just leave this over here. Oh, look at that.
That's not what happened, though.
That's what's in the book.
That's not what's in the book. It wasn't, we don't care nothing about black folks when we live it over here. They deliberately were allowing malignant cancers to ravage the bodies of African people, and they were extracting those cells, and they found one line of cells that would reproduce infinitely. Did they leave her cells out? They were doing non-consensual, with no informed consent, experimentation on African people.
Did they leave her cells out?
The family who should be.
Did they leave her cells out? I'm asking a very simple question. Did they leave her cells out?
Yes. They extracted her cells
without
her permission. They patented and made medications out of.
You continue to add all of these other things to it, Diallo. I'm asking you one question.
What came of that? Tell me what.
I'm asking you one question, bro. I'm asking you one question. The question I'm asking is very simple.
Okay.
I read the book.
Okay.
Henrietta Lacks. She goes to the doctor because her man has given her like VD or something, right? She's getting checked out. They take a sample of something. I don't remember exactly what it was. You worked in the medical field.
I'm very familiar with the process. I'm very familiar with what happened. Right. I need to know the good that came of it.
All the medicine that's been created from our cells. They still using that stuff.
For whose benefit? For whose profit?
What do you mean for who? Humanity. You don't take no medicine?
The U.S. pharmaceutical industry exists for the good of humanity.
Okay. So now I'm trying to make sure I understand this. Mm-hmm. If my mama gets sick and take medicine that has been developed as a result of Henrietta Lacks' cells, that's not good for me.
Can she afford the medicines?
Yeah.
Because you're leaving out a lot of components. But
I'm not leaving out components. See, again, this is what I think.
Does the black community?
No. This is where I think a whole lot of problems come in.
Who profits when your mother?
My mama was sick and now she well. Like, we keep having these really high level conversations that poor people ain't thinking about. And when I'm talking about poor people, I'm talking about my mama.
We need them to think about it.
I'm talking about my mama. If my mama's sick,
can't afford. The main thing that poor people can't afford is
none of that is the medicine available. Can my mama take it?
No, it's not available.
Was she sick before?
No, it's not available.
Is she well?
No, it's not available. Who has the lowest life expectancy in this country? Who has the lowest? Who has the poorest outcomes when engaged in
the medicine available?
No.
And yes, it is, because my mama can go to the store and get it.
Theoretically.
And we can say that you can say that she been exploited. I'm not arguing that she not, but you just said what is an accident that had a positive outcome.
For who? For black people.
Bro, what?
We weren't saying an overall positive outcome. The Henrietta
Diallo,
Lacks
you can't do that. You just said when they use Agent Orange.
Allow me to ask you a question.
Diallo, we not being serious, bro.
That's all I know how to be.
We not being serious. There's no way you being serious. There's no way. Your son broke his leg.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
If there was a painkiller developed and he took it, it helped.
Yes.
The end. Like, well, we gotta listen, yes, all that shit right. Destroy the medical industry, destroy capitalism. I'm with all of that. That's the
topic of discussion here.
But when my mama's sick, I want my mama to have this medicine.
That's not relevant to the discussion.
The
discussion here is that there are conditions and outcomes for African people in this system that are not deliberately and directly directed by white people. There are negative outcomes for African people that white people accidentally, indirectly, or haphazardly direct or cause. That's the debate here. You are asserting that sometimes black people find ourselves as a people. We can't go off of individuals because you're the one that kicked out the antidotes, not me. You're the one who forbade the antidotes. So I'm talking about our collective status as a people, which is one of oppression, genocide, displacement, and all the negative shit. Black people are at the top of every single negative social indicator. From life expectancy, alcoholism, incarceration, homelessness. The only populations that surpass us in most of these categories are the Native Americans, who are also under genocidal oppression. And your assertion is some of those conditions or outcomes are not deliberately, consciously caused by our oppressor, but sometimes just occur because of negligence or lapse of judgment or failure to act. When I'm saying the society as it sustains, an illegitimate, dysfunctional society that we live in is not accidental and not just by default. It is not the nature of capitalism. It is the conscious, deliberate subversion, warfare, race war. The history of America is the history of one-sided race war. That's the dispute. Do I say black people derive no benefits in society? I just was arguing about the benefits that we derive. What I'm talking about, our suffering and our condition, is consciously and deliberately created and sustained. And if they stop for one day, if they stop for 1 year, their unrelenting, conscious, deliberate subversion and oppression of African people, we would blow their shit up. And it's the same goes for Haiti. The same goes for the continent of Africa. The same goes for the Africans in Central and South of America. We like to believe we have no enemies and that shit happens that's beyond our control or in the hands of just nobody. You can't, no, there's somebody to perform. We have an enemy. We have an implacable foe, and we have an eternal bitter enemy.
And again, ain't nothing you just said I disagree with.
Okay. Did we discuss single mothers, or we could say black women are scapegoated?
Yeah, we
by the greater society and by the black community, and a lot of internalized patriarchy and a lot of internalized misogyny. I could pull up several prominent women, who I call Scheherazade Ali's bastard offspring. A lot of women scapegoat other women. Even remember when Fantasia got married and she said that black women aren't able to get husbands because we're not feminine enough and they're not submissive enough and they don't have proper values. When she found, instead of just enjoying her man and living in her holy matrimony happiness, she decided to take a jab at black women as a collective.
I will say this about black women. If they would stop wearing bonnets in public, the black race will be free of every scourge that we've argued on this call today. Like, I just don't understand. I just don't understand.
Sexy Red is the harbinger of the apocalypse. I mean, do you know how moral, ethical, and upright not only the black race, but hip hop was before the emergence of Sexy Red, who has single-handedly destroyed black culture and black morality? And before Sexy Red, all other races respected and loved us. And then
now, I ain't gonna lie to you, bro.
Booty holes brown, all races.
We get real mad when Sexy Red tells the truth.
I mean, that's an anatomy lesson. Some brothers need to know that. She's just talking anatomy and physiology, and we mad at her. She's scientifical. So anyway, yes. So black women have been scapegoated from day one. Jezebel in the media. It's tragic when our oppressors do it, and it's treasonous when we do it, and it's even more tragic when black women are a big proponent with the pick me phenomenon, or black women who are able to navigate the ravages of compounding oppression of being a black in a racist society, and being a woman in a sexist patriarchal society, and being poor in a classist and capitalist society. And though they're able to overcome and have a business or secure a stable and happy family, and then instead of just enjoying that or advancing that, they use that to bludgeon other women who have not achieved at their level. So yes, black women are a scapegoat, and I don't think any discussion of scapegoating that excludes black women is legitimate.
I have a serious question about that. Like, serious. Like, this is, I want, Cook and Diallo on this. What have black women done to warrant not just the hatred, but like even when it was like, when it was like, but like even now, like when they say stuff like, like these people are talking about the way these black women don't spend child support money the right way, or like what is the root of this hatred of our mothers?
I have to. This is uncomfortable and painful. This is where this comes from. You have a patriarchal, hierarchical system with fixed roles for men and women. When Africans left the plantation, so the African man had watched his woman be ravaged for centuries, multiples of generations. And when we became free of that ravaging, where we were defined as chattel, and Dale Jones put it this way. He said, black people endured conditions where there'd be a knock at your door, and when you open, or not even a door, there'd be a knock at your thatch hut in the slave plantation. And the master would say, send your wife up. I'm feeling frisky. And then the next night, there would be a knock at the door. And the slave, the head slave would say to you, send your daughter up to the big house. Master want to break her in. And there was a knock at the door. And the head slave would say to the African, or the enslaved African, send your son up. Master wants to be experimental and freaky. Or there'd be a knock at the door, and the head slave would say, and any assertion of authority, power, strength, protection was not simply met with death. It was met with mutilation, torture, and not simple death, but a festival atmosphere of displaying the corpse before everyone else. So we went through generations of that. And that's why it really blows my mind that we want fiat currency for this blood debt, or we'll settle. So after that, the African man was freed and given his civil and human status as a citizen of the United States. We have been cut off from our ancestors and our history. So we began to mimic white men. And the white man was an earner, a king of his castle, master of his domain, and the head of the household. So we defined our manhood as a mimicry of the man who just enslaved and ravaged us psychologically and physically. And we found out that the white man was not going to uphold his end of the bargain. So we went from chattel slavery to having our rights recognized, Reconstruction, a small window, and then right into Jim Crow. And so under Jim Crow came many of the same abuses. We didn't have the resources. We couldn't be a provider. So our women had to go into the same houses to continue the abuse. And a lot of men would send their wives out to the white man's house to launder, to suckle and raise his shit, and then come home. And the man might want sex. The man might want his food cooked. He might want his house cleaned. And the wife is like, I've been cooking, cleaning, and servicing the white man all day. Oh, you don't see me as a man. So long story short, the African man had to make a choice. Redefine what it meant to be a man, or wage unrelenting war against not just the white man, but the entire system that he set up. Or 3, deem the African woman unworthy of our protection. You have to either acknowledge, I don't have the capacity to protect you because I'm too weak, I'm powerless, or I'm a man, I'm strong, but I'm not going to protect you because you don't know how to act. You don't know how to talk. You don't know how to dress. You're not submissive enough. You too frigid and too closed off, or you're too loose. So many of our ancestors, and to this day, said, well, I don't want to acknowledge my inability to protect the Black woman. So I'll pretend that I do have the capacity to protect her, but she hasn't conducted herself in a way to be worthy of my protection, to be worthy of my presence and partnership. And that's where a lot of these attitudes and dispositions about African women who have been also under unrelenting attack. And we didn't understand how sexism, patriarchy affected us and distorted our roles and our relationships to other men and to our women. So it is basically Black men have been playing this psychological game since we were in slavery, that, hey, ain't none of my business, ain't none of my woman. She don't know how to act. She don't know how to talk. She don't know how to dress. She don't know how to cook. She's unworthy of my protection. Because if we deem her worthy of our protection, it ain't just about fighting the dudes in the street. You got to go to war with these motherfuckers. They got tanks, aircraft carriers, and nuclear bombs. You got to go to war with the very corporations you want to work for and secure the bag for. Because you have to, protecting Black women ain't just about, hey, don't whistle at my woman. It's about, she has dioxin in her breast milk. She has microplastic in her bloodstream. So you have to go to war, relentless war against every single institution that has been established since the fucking 1400s, since the establishment of the limited liability corporation. And in our warped sense, it ain't even that we can partner with African women to wage war against this, because that's not manly. We have to sit her down or push her to the back and wage war without her instead of partnering with her, because we have adopted a warped sense of what it means to be a man. And that is a big core of the conflict. So if Black men, number one, would stop mimicking white men, that would totally transform. If we would radicalize, revolutionize, instead of trying to create these toxic hierarchies within our relationships and begin to engage in an anarcho, radical way of interrelationship, because Black women participate in that too. I say all the time, Black women, they want a capitalist in the streets and a revolutionary in the streets. They really believe that Black men can go out here and secure the bag, secure a home, secure a 2-car garage and 2 nice cars to put into it, and not adopt any of the pathological mind state that comes as a byproduct of achievement and elevating within capitalism. So we're supposed to do everything the white men did, secure everything the white man got, without engaging in any of the atrocities or dysfunctions. that allowed the white man to do what he did. So we both play this role in making the way we define each other, the way our social theories, our social practices, our internal hierarchies and relationships. But it all boils down to, if you don't have the capacity to protect something, you either have to go to war, transform yourself, or you can simply deem that thing unworthy of protection. If you and I walking down the street and some guy steps to you and is like, yo, I got beef with you, and he start beefing with you, and I'm like, well, Skip is my man. I got to jump in. He's unfairly being attacked. Or I could be like, man, we had a disagreement. And so, because we have a different, because we don't have identical thinking, we're not clones, because we do have some disagreements, then that's on him. So imagine that across generations. So we haven't come to terms with the psychological assault and the physical assault, and we haven't come to terms that the vast majority of African men that exist on this planet are nothing but pale imitations, pun intended, who are mimicking, aping, and trying to embody the most dysfunctional concept and way in social relationships and social structure. We are fucking mimicry of white men. And one thing I say, that the thing we get condemned for the most, we don't achieve in capitalism. We're not achieving. I think that is a complimentary of us. That we can't, even when we try to front like we want to be like them, we fail miserably. They not like us. But the problem is, we trying to be like them. I don't know. That was a long-winded answer.
No, I think it was a great answer. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. I'm looking forward to more of that conversation.
Yeah, it's we need a revolution.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Thinking a lot.
Okay. Let's move on to the next scapegoat, the next victim who's blamed.
All right, so far we got government.
And can I put a caveat on that? When I say government, I say regulatory agencies and low-level bureaucrats.
Yeah.
But I'm not talking about the military. I'm not talking about the police. I'm not talking about your mayor, your senator, your governor, or the president.
But even them, But yeah, government is, because
we blame the government for shit. Here's the thing: we blame the government for shit the government ain't got shit to do with, and then we give the government pass on where we should be condemning the government.
Yeah. All right. So government was first. What was second?
Well, it's hard to say. When you say black women, I guess.
Okay, so black women was second. I thought it was something before black women. So government, black women, and now what's the third?
Well, I said single mothers, but then it kind of distilled like.
Yeah, but
black
we
women
know what that means.
Black women who sit at home and just have babies and don't do no work get scapegoated. Ambitious black women out there getting their degree and getting theirs, they get scapegoated.
They ain't gonna have no man.
Their bonnet get scapegoated, but the black women who deal with their eyebrows and nails and hair, they get attacked. Yeah. So it ain't really nothing they can do. So
all right.
And
what else we got?
You ready for this next victim of scapegoating?
Okay, I'm ready.
The devil, Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, one of the most persecuted and falsely blamed, falsely charged, falsely condemned entities in human history.
So look, bro, I can't remember what I forgot what I was reading.
Shout out to the devil, man.
This boy, hey, listen, let me tell you what somebody said about the devil. And I could not stop laughing. They was like, the devil was the first revolutionary.
I said that.
No, I read this in a book.
Oh, well, I said it too.
They say the devil was like, yo, I'd rather rule in hell than serve in heaven. And I could not stop laughing. This devil that I've never seen I've never come across is blamed for everything.
And what was Lucifer's first crime that he committed against humanity?
Knowledge.
That's the first thing he did, was give us knowledge. I mean, let me tell you something. If I wasn't an atheist and I went to bed one night and I had a vision, or if I was riding my donkey to Whole Foods and an angel knocked me off of it, and I was like, wow, you know, I've been so blind, I've been so stupid. God is real, and he created the universe and he oversees all. I'd be a fucking Satanist. Who got the bigger body count? I would be a bona fide. If everything in the Bible was objectively true, I'd be a Satanist. At the mark of the beast, I'd be balling out while y'all hungry. I'd be like, I wish I could give you something. But you see, get the mark, man. I just came from Gucci Louis. Get this mark. I just walked up in there like, boom, right hand, boom, boop, boop, boop.
You would be the Mr. Pie Scraper.
Huh?
Right hand on bling bling. Left wrist on bling blow.
This hot ass little in this little corner office, sweating on a broken mic stand. Man, let me tell you something. I have like a professional backdrop, brand new mic stand. I have nice.
This the thing about the devil, and I think you know, I love it when we get to the point where we really be agreeing. As a person who believes, I ain't never seen the devil. I done seen nothing but people that swear they with God. Listen, boy. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you the problem with scapegoating the devil. And I remember, you know, rest in power to the late, great Kwame Ture. He said, and I agreed with him for a very long time, that one of the greatest things the most honorable Elijah Muhammad did for African people and the African psyche was to profess to the world that the white man is not a devil, the white man is the devil. And take someone who has lorded over us as gods and the rulers and the embodiment of beauty and wholesomeness and righteousness and civilization, and reduce them down and see them from the perspective of the most wicked, vile thing African people who've been indoctrinated could imagine. He said that was a great asset. And I was like, yeah. But as I've come to develop in all these years of struggle, unrelenting, exhaustive struggle, I've come to observe that giving the concept of the supernatural, otherworldly components to these flesh and bone human beings has been an extreme disruption to our capacity to, number one, understand our oppressors and our oppression and to combat it. Giving supernatural, otherworldly explanations to material, physical reality harms our ability to comprehend and engage it intelligently.
Hey, listen, it's the same thing you were saying a second ago when talking about black women and how, you know, like Presta John is so funny. This idea that like if you gonna face it, you really gotta face all of it. And now when you're saying it, you're giving it more of a like it's gonna be there. Like it ain't nothing that we can do about it. And I just like there is something that we can do about this machine that we are combating, that we are fighting with. Like there's definitely something we can do about it, you know.
Well, I think we got to open it up. Time has gotten away because you kept distracting us. So we did very poorly on time. So we only got to.
But look,
we only got to like 3, 4.
Before we open it up, because we got 13 starred. This is what I want to say about the chat. I appreciate y'all, man. We were on our best behavior tonight, and I'm really here to say that Diallo's my brother. We disagree on this thing, and I'm more than willing to accept that I may be wrong, but that's just not the way I see it. And we're gonna be in community, and I appreciate that.
Right. I also agree. And I'm telling you that I fully accept that I could be wrong, and I'm more than willing, and I enthusiastically willing to change my conclusions and positions upon being presented with evidence.
Yep.
That's all. It's simple. That's a small
That's
thing.
it. That's it. Like, and yeah.
You want to go through the start and then we jump on the
I think let's put the link in the chat first.
But then if people gonna be dropping it, you want to go through the start first? Or?
Yeah, like because it's gonna take a minute for them to come on, and then we go through the start, and then we can do that. Yeah. So first one, I'm going out of order a little bit. Comrade Trav, he sent a record to Jared. That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, he sent a record.
He sent a record. Comrade Trav did, and he was talking that talk. So Comrade Trav, thank you for the $10.
I didn't mean to do that.
But also, let's link, bro, because you was talking that talk. I'm very interested in rapping with you. Yeah, like
there's only be one at the top, Skip. I ain't no instigator, but
Comrade Trav, he gonna be the one at the top. Like, a wise man once told me.
You said you're gonna take him down from the top.
No, that's not what I said. I said he gonna be at the top.
No, brotherhood.
Hey, Comrade Trav, I'll find the link and I can put it. I'm gonna put it in the chat under Diallo's name, so y'all can check that out. But I only got one.
I shared it. Go to my Facebook. Go ahead, Diallo.
Yeah. So check that out. That's tough. All right. Diallo, you got a question? Talking about wage slavery. What is the alternative?
The alternative, that's easy. The alternative of wage slavery is that no one profits from the labor or owns the labor of another person. So if you are working in a company, in an industry, you own a portion of that. If you're constructing and working in construction to build a building, then Donald Trump can't come with a piece of paper saying, well, I'm the financier, and he ain't laid one fucking brick or put up one piece of drywall on that building. So the only alternative to wage slavery is worker ownership of their own labor and wages, and the worker ownership of the means of production. The alternative to that is worker ownership of the means of production.
Hey, and in the meantime,
socialism.
Yeah, in the meantime, like, hey man, do what you gotta do to get you some bread. Don't be out here starving.
I wanted to do a discussion on, because we talk about how there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, but we never talk about what ethical thing you can actually do under capitalism, because there are ethics under capitalism, even if consumption isn't one of them, because we do that to let ourselves off the hook.
Yeah, I like that. I'm with it.
So worker ownership, until you get worker ownership, unionization, and if you are not in a position to unionize, do as little work as possible, quiet quit, slack, steal staplers or whatever, and engage in all forms of rebellion that do not risk your income or your livelihood, and then organize in your free time, because there would be no such thing as free time if there wasn't slave time, and in your free time join and link with a revolutionary organization to subvert capitalism and white hegemony.
All right, is Skip done skipping? I'm working on that. Most of the time, if I'm not here, it's not because I'm goofing off, it's because I'm on some dad shit. Like, so I think y'all will understand that. Here's a good one. We've talked about this before. Like, drug users were a scapegoat, but the real enemy was the black misleadership class that pushed for the 94 crime bill. Diallo has a slightly different understanding of that at that time. But I think it also is highly informed by where you were. because after Diallo talked about it, I remember looking it up and seeing, what was it, Maxine Waters talking about how bad of an idea this was. So yeah, there were people that were talking out against it. But in my community,
there were revolutionaries who were against decriminalization, like Kwame Ture. There was a bill way back in the 60s to legalize cannabis in the DC district, which was predominantly black, and Kwame Ture railed against and came out publicly against it. So it's more complex than we know.
Yeah. Boom. I don't know what this means.
He thinks that I'm pro vaccine and he's one of those COVID conspiracists, and he doesn't like my conclusion about I gave a discussion about the Tuskegee atrocities, and so he's been on my back since the COVID pandemic and quarantine, because I was just speaking, and in fact my video discussing COVID got deleted by YouTube, but some good shit in there, but I ain't rehashing that. So he wants to think that I'm pro pharmaceutical industry and pro whatever he thinks the conspiracy.
You did get vaccinated though, didn't
you? Yes.
Yeah, I did too. Like, I don't want to get my mama sick. I want to get my dad sick.
Right. That was the thing. My grandmother was basically in hospice at the time, and in order to travel and engage with her, I got the shot, and therefore I'm no longer a revolutionary. Yeah.
Did your 5G reception improve?
No. I didn't get the bill no more.
I didn't either. I didn't get. I mean, I wanted some superpowers. I didn't get any of that. I think I got this one because public pools were condemned and abandoned, and they didn't want black people there. It doesn't mean they didn't want us to learn how to swim. That's basically my point. Like, you didn't learn how to swim, you didn't get to swim, but I don't think that's going into it was that. This is a wild statement from Luke. Jackson doesn't sound all that black for real. Okay.
I'll be able to tell you from the ground. I'm going to expose all of your deepest lies, because I will be in Jackson for the first time in my life.
Listen,
I will be in Jackson on August 17th. So we about to
listen. All I can say is, bro, if you don't believe nothing I'm saying, you can go to census.gov and put in Hines County and see what show up. Like,
and the link to come on live is in the chat. Sorry, I forgot to push the pass. Sorry about
that. This was an interesting one because we all talked about the Tuskegee experiment, and we all know
atrocity. It was not an experiment. They did not employ the scientific method. There was no control group. There was no proper monitoring or controlling. It was just an atrocity committed against the population, no different than the Nazi scientist. So it was not an experiment. It didn't qualify.
Hey, shout out to Andy Williams for
and there was no data extracted from it.
Yeah. Oh, we got Q in there. Let's wait till they get all the way on. Is Q ready?
I don't know.
Okay. This was a crazy question. Would you justify the slave trade because of scientific breakthroughs of slave societies? I don't know what, like, I don't even know what that means, but no, like, I don't think slavery is okay. All right, let's see. I'll bring Q on, add to the stage. What's up, Q?
Welcome to the Rational Radicals.
What's up, y'all? Can y'all hear me?
Hey, what's up, African? How you doing?
Not much. How y'all doing?
I'm well.
That's good. Also, speedy recovery to Miles. Skip.
Man, thank you, bro. I really appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I just want to hop on and speak on the concept of buck breaking in relation to the black woman thing, because I think buck breaking plays a lot into why black men also strive for patriarchy and power, because I think it also holds them up, because when they do run into problematic, like even when Diallo, you were talking about Diddy, I think a couple weeks ago, I think that's a I think that's a consequence of what we think about buck breaking, and they're trying to take another strong man down, and you know, we have to hold him up, and you got what I'm saying? Like I think there's the trauma in the buck breaking, that so when we see any black man, whether he's problematic, whether he's hurt, holding up certain systems of domination or exploitation up, we still kind of want to latch onto him and say he's innocent or whatever the case might be.
Did you get the terminology from Tariq Nasheed?
Oh yes, I want to use. Well, yeah, I meant to mention him. Like when he explains it as, you know, these were the alpha males, and it's like I
You
think,
acknowledge that Tariq Nasheed is a con man and a goddamn idiot.
Oh, for sure. I'm not endorsing him. I'm just saying. I think,
and his very motivation for promoting the concept of buck breaking has nothing to do with examining and transforming or revolutionizing black men.
Definitely, I agree. But I think his platform is so big, and the fact that he's been able to use that concept to push a certain narrative, which is the whole alpha male manosphere kind of like talking points. And you couple that with history of seeing, you know, especially like leaders that were actually productive, and that kind of gets blurred into like the problematic figures like R. Kelly, Diddy, and all that, and we still try and kind of lump them in.
It's much worse than that. It also tries to give the false historical narrative that black men suffered more under chattel slavery than African women. And he has been publicly stated, I quote, "The black woman could give up some pussy to carry favor with the slave master, and a black man didn't have that option. So the black women had it easier under slavery." So he dismissed the rape and sexual assault of our African women, and the fact that this individual has any status or standing in our community, and black men have any level of support for him is disrespecting ourselves.
I guess, yes, I think he's one figure that is someone that we should heavily critique. But I also see they might not call, well, even with like Nick Cannon, or you see the 19 Keys, they kind of push that same narrative too. And it's like, I wonder what it would take to kind of like back up from that concept and see how patriarchy, black patriarchy, whatever,
to use the atrocities of our ancestors to distort history and to create a false narrative.
Right.
It's literally like, I have to say it, it's like pissing on the grave and turning our ancestors' suffering into your own personal currency. So I don't like using that terminology of buck breaking or the historical term, and I definitely cannot say with enough gusto, you know, fuck Tariq Nasheed and everything he stands for, from FBA and all the other distortions. He sees black suffering as a vehicle to drive his own reactionary integrationist narrative, because he is literally the living embodiment of what I was saying about African men trying to mimic white men. What he wants to do is to stand on par. He wants to elevate within the hierarchy, not destroy it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm posting just a quick link under Diallo's name, but from Reddit. But yeah, so I just say this about buck breaking as an idea. We don't know what evils happened to our folks. But regardless of what they were horrible. And yeah. And I do think that it's a unnecessarily some of the language in this Reddit post is something that I was thinking about, because I think it's like, in a weird way, it's like being homophobic, and
that's all it is. Yeah, it's exactly
like it's just being homophobic and like, trying to be like
us gay.
Yeah, like I don't quite know.
He literally used videos of gay men twerking in the video to make the parallel that it's an agenda to make our black, and it's like, that was all in the
like, that's weird. Like, I don't know. Like, first off,
when slavery, more so of the treasonous black men or the black men who were the head men who would facilitate the exploitation of our people, which he came to fame through playing a pimp. And teaching other black men how to manipulate and exploit black women. So he's more evidence of the history and the ongoing dysfunction bred of our enslavement. He's more of that than any gay man you can identify.
And I just want to say this, as a not gay man, Jimmy Baldwin, who was extremely effeminate, was that dude. Bayard Rustin, like we know he was telling, but he was still talking that talk at a very high level. Actually, I almost named my youngest son after both of those men. I don't care what grown people do with grown people. So whatever. Like, man, love who you want to love, in the words of that great Negro philosopher Ray J.
Right. And one more thing. Europeans did more to suppress black male and femininity and homosexuality around the world. All of those laws from Zimbabwe to Namibia, all of those fucking laws, anti-sodomy laws, come out of the Christian church and are funded and by Western evangelical formations that are bribing African politicians. And so and another thing, rape is not sex.
Absolutely.
Right.
Ain't got nothing to do with
a man or a woman is not having sex. It's not a sexual act. I worked in a level 1 trauma center. And the main thing that a predator or a rapist looks for is not how sexy you are or how attractive you are. The number one characteristics that predators look for is vulnerability. So that's why you have everything from prepubescent children to 80 and 90-year-old people coming in being victims of predation, because it's not. People you would never define as attractive, and talking that nonsense about, this dude's effeminate or that girl's promiscuous or dressed scantily and that's why they were attacked. It is not a sex. Rape is not an act of sex. So for him to even try to conflate the systematic sexual assault and exploitation of African people under slavery with an act of consensual sex is another disruption. I mean, I don't know.
I guess I'm not necessarily putting the focus on him, but I know that's recently been a talking point amongst a lot of different platforms. And
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Skip.
No, I want to finish. I want to say this, and then I think we're gonna go to the next person. But go ahead and finish. I want you to get your last thought.
No, I was just saying I see this. I see this particular. It, like I said, it might not be out loud and fleshed out, but I tend to think like this concept keeps showing up, and when you now have a situation like Diddy and like I said, Diallo, you already talked about it, where Umar was talking about if we were okay with women being abused and blah 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 blah, and it's like how many contradictions do we need to see in order to view this thing as bad? It always makes me scratch my head, but that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I just think, like, even when we bring things up, I think Diallo, being super critical of Tariq Nasheed, like in this instance, makes a lot of sense to me. But I just think, like, sometimes we can respond to things that if we stay quiet would die. Right? Like, I don't know what the point in talking about this is. So, like, I get that was a question that was on your heart, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes if we engage some of these things like seriously and they're just meant to be really distractions, we do more harm than good. But thank you for coming on. And please keep coming on because you seem like a good person.
For sure. I appreciate y'all taking the time. Y'all have a good
All right,
one.
Bro. Hey, I want to skip. Hey, Echo done, you next. But we got Plant done coming up. You know what I'm saying? And we need to get his we need a report from the Meg Thee Stallion concert to see, you know what I'm saying, what happened, because I contributed. There you go. What's happening, handsome?
Uhuru.
Did you go to the Meg Thee Stallion show and be a hottie? Were you
Bro,
a hottie?
Cal State San Bernardino said they want their chips first.
Oh, y'all got an inside joke. What happened?
No, that's not an inside joke. Literally. Yeah, no, that's not I'm being very literal. Like I'm still doing the transcript shuffle, right? I've been in community college for way too long, and I've taken classes at way too many different institutions. So I'm in the process of, like, getting all the transcripts evaluated, my graduation application, though I walked across the stage, my the file is still being evaluated and all this, that, and the other. I've got to have this all done before a certain deadline so I can adhere to the requirements of my conditional acceptance to Cal State.
All of this is him saying he did not go to the Meg Thee Stallion concert. What's up,
no, man? So I actually wanted to continue. Like, Q was actually making some for real points that, like, myself as a queer person, like, I'm interested, right? And I think that Skip, you brought up a valid point, right? You raised a valid critique, right? It's like, if we could simply pay attention to these things, not pay attention to these things or not discuss these things, they wouldn't be in fact prevailing. As we are the things that in fact make these issues themselves prevailing, right? As being on this end of the so-called capitalist market economy. But I, even though I do accept that as like 100% valid, I kind of do want to offer like a little bit of pushback, because unfortunately, right, these are the everybody, and me and my best friend was just talking about this. So he was getting in on me, like, because he was like, you always got something to say about, like, what's on the internet, right? You're always like, if somebody just simply reposts something, he's commenting how I get in on, I'm going in on people, but I'm like, we actually really, really, really have to struggle with these things. If we don't struggle with these things, then we aren't, like, that struggling with the way that we see celebrities getting down, right, for example, is in fact important, right? Because it's a way for us to connect the community's mind to first off, democratic centrism, but it's a particular element into political education, right? We understand, if we could have probably our community at large understand that celebrity is in fact a profession, right? And it is a profession of mass media, which is a socio-political institution, right? Which advances these particular economic motives under capitalist global material domination. That's why these little bitty things are important. And on that note of, like, struggling with these things, right? It's a matter of literally, that's kind of an economic question, because one of the things that my best friend and I observed is, like, I have, as a full-time student, unemployed, I have time on my hands, right? I have space on I have the space to struggle with things in the way that my community simply does not have the time to struggle with them. Now, of course, they're going to engage social media because, unfortunately, these cellular devices and social media has, in some parts, become a part of our day-to-day life. However, that does not mean that, like, social media is at any part a social issue in and of itself. What we have to blame here is technological advancement, unfortunately, under industrial capitalism, and as it is used to advance capitalist material domination. That is the problem. And also, that problem, that even where we can even say, like, man, if we would just stop giving this attention, it wouldn't be, since we understand that we, in fact, drive, right, this particular market, if we should so follow along with that has to come, we have to arrive at that conclusion through struggling through these occurrences, through acknowledging and identifying these contradictions, right? And we have to keep struggling with them because, for example, unfortunately, because of the way that mass media has co-opted technology, we're getting a lot more information and we're getting it a lot quicker. Now, I'm nobody's psychologist, nobody's social investigator, stuff like that. I cannot make any comments on what that does or what impact that has had right on the human mind. And I'm not trying to make nobody's conspiracy theory. However, I will say we are getting more information and we are getting it quicker. So because of that, we in fact have to engage these things. We in fact have to struggle with these things. We have to do that for our working comrades that don't have the space and time to engage these things properly. Ooh.
All right. I think that stands.
Okay.
Y'all have a good evening.
You too, bro.
Right.
And thank y'all so much. And deep thanks to the community for the assistance y'all did try to. But let me please note, please trust and believe that went to the higher education. We didn't get to win Megan Thee Stallion to Anvil, but we will be ascending these bourgeois institutions.
Shout out to the hotties. No.
Uhuru.
We got Echo Dunn.
Yeah, I'm here.
What's happening, African? Okay, that was crazy. What up? Oh,
Hello. Can you hear me?
yeah. I thought Diallo was gonna go off screen when you showed up. He be running from you. What up?
Anyways,
Oh,
I'm actually coming for him. Actually, I'm glad he turned up.
I know.
So, couple of things, two things. One, I think Brodialo is wrong when he said the white evangelicals are the ones that push the agenda of legislating laws against the gays and the homosexuals and the transgenders. I completely disagree. They may be a part of it, but I will say it will be a tiny part of it because I am from the culture, the Yoruba culture, and I've tried to find out from my grandmother, my uncles, what the name of what it is to be called gay and what it is to be called transgender. There is no such word. I'm not saying being transgender or being gay is alien to the African culture. No. Oh, I'm sure that there have been men who have sex with other men or other women who have attraction towards other women. Now, that's a different thing.
Oak, is Obatala a man or a woman?
Excuse me. Obatala is a man, not a trans. Yes.
I didn't say. So Obatala is a man. A man.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Actually, in the Yoruba cosmology, it is documented that he had a wife, had kids, and there's no such thing as being transgender. Nothing. I think that is just made up. Now, second thing that I would say, I've been fortunate enough to study to the topmost echelon of the medical field. And I would say categorically that two things. If you have anyone who is diagnosed with schizophrenia or bipolar or anything like that, please and please do not let them get medicated with this, what we have. It's a poison. That is a fact. I would encourage.
You're giving medical advice. Wait, you're saying people who are diagnosed should not what?
People who are diagnosed with bipolar, schizophrenia, or depression should try as much as possible to stay away from the psychotropic meds that is being given. I would encourage people to look into this woman called Joanna Moncrief. She's a psychiatrist from the UK.
You made a hell of a leap. What is it? I'm just curious. You go from saying that you couldn't find evidence of gays or transgender from your Europa culture to talking about psychotropic drugs. What does one have to do with the other, or are you just moving on?
I was moving on, but I can actually link it together.
Oh, so now you're going back to saying that. So you're linking mental illness with being transgender or homosexual.
Yes, it is a fact.
So why are you mentioning schizophrenia? Is homosexuality a symptom of schizophrenia or vice versa?
No. They're various parts of the brain.
So why are you giving unsolicited advice to schizophrenic people?
Yeah, because when you say if you have depression, don't take your meds, like that's crazy, bro. Like if I didn't take my meds, shit'll get real bad real fast.
He didn't say depression, he said schizophrenia. Did he say
no? Depression was in there too. He said bipolar depression.
If you're taking medical advice from Oak, you deserve whatever happens to you.
No, that's what I'm saying. Don't
call me. I'm gonna block your number. If you taking medical advice from Oak, whatever happens to you is you
just look on YouTube, Joanna Moncrief. Don't take it from me.
Hey, bro, I feel you. Oh, I'm sure you know a thing that you know, but I'm just talking about, like the same way earlier we were talking about my lived experience. When I stopped taking my antidepressants, the people that know and love me can tell. So I don't know where you going. I want you to finish.
What
I'm saying? But I also just want to add in there that this sounds like you going to a real bad place.
Slide some premise. So first he's saying that there's no homosexuality in the culture, and
that's not what he said.
That's not what I said.
He said there was no word for it.
I did that was not what I said.
Oh, you said there's no word for it, but
he was like, there's no word for transgender, and there's no word for being gay.
Yeah. Why are you gay? Okay. What does that have to do with anything? Because there is no word for a phenomenon. What are you saying?
What I'm saying is
now you have a word. It's called homosexual or transgender. Now that you have a word, now what are you going to do?
Okay. Now what I'm saying is, you said something earlier. You said the white evangelicals are the ones who go to. That's
behind the legislation.
That is not.
Where is it not true? What region on the African continent, what specific law or legislature is that not true?
In Nigeria, category, I can say that is not true.
You're telling me that the evangelical right has no impact on Nigerian anti-homosexual legislation?
Yes.
Oh, I recognize that you know more about Nigeria than I do, but that's a wild claim that you just made. Because
I'm not saying this because I am anti-gay. I've studied science. I'm telling you.
No. We talking about you saying that the evangelical right isn't pushing these laws in West Africa.
That is no. Now, I no. If you go back and listen to what I said I am not saying they may not be peddling it. I am saying that the main reason why the African government make it illegal in Africa strictly, it's just because of the white evangelicals. It's not true.
I didn't say it's strictly because, but it
But
is.
that was the only
Okay,
point.
okay. Answer me this. What are the dominant religions in Africa?
Christianity and Islam.
When Good Luck Jonathan, what is his religion?
He's a Christian.
He signed the prohibition.
Correct.
So you're saying that the Nigerian Muslims and Christians, right, had nothing to do with Western evangelicals.
I am saying that the reason for the legislative arm of the government to make it illegal, it is not as a result of the white evangelicals' intervention in Africa. It is not.
So, the
reason why I took it upon myself to come here, to come out and say this, when you say that, Dr. Bro Diallo, what you're saying is that Africans, by and of themselves, are not able to speak of those things that are anti their culture. That without these white men or these white evangelicals, we are unable to
I would say that Africans would not be hacking each other to death and murdering each other without colonial intervention. Yes, that is my conclusion. I would say that Africans are not capable of systemic persecution of other Africans in absence of evangelical and colonial interference. I don't see any history, as you say. I was unable to find any history. In fact, I would go so far as to say that these very countries and borders and limitations and religions would not exist without colonial interventions. Yes, I will say that.
No.
I think Africans are capable of governing Africans. But when I see Africans, as opposed to implementing anti-colonial laws, anti-capitalist laws, anti-imperialist policies, when I see Africans committing resources to investigating the gays instead of committing resources for the food insecurity, the toxic waste dump being dumped on Africa, and all of the other imperialist atrocities, when I see them writing legislations to stop the gays in a country with high poverty rates, with high rates of where hundreds of girls are being kidnapped by Islamic extremists in the north. So when I see a country and a nation and a government not prioritizing the needs of its citizens, I have to say that that is colonial behavior.
I disagree.
So yes, Oak, I will go so far as to say.
Okay. Let me ask you this, and then we're gonna slide, because this just gonna turn it into arguing. If you can look at your history and say that you did not see the word for transgender, and you didn't see the word for gay, that also means that you didn't see laws excluding those people from participating in society. After folks on the continent came into contact with people that say they're Christian, this happened. Now, I don't know if it was causation or not, but I am saying that if you can go back into your history and argue that these things didn't happen, now they're happening.
When you say that, before, the Sean Kuti always says something that I really like. African laws, African practices, African folkways and ways of life is socialized.
Brother Shayoun into this.
We don't have like you have law books here. Everybody knows the law. Everybody knows the norms and what is done and not. Now, Bro Diallo, I would encourage you to be open and to be willing to learn, because when I listen to someone like you, propagate things about homosexual, which is completely wrong and false. It is anti-science, and that is a fact.
What is anti-science?
That it is, actually remember the last time I came on, when I said, if a man says he is a woman and have his penis cut off, that is a form of male genital mutilation. Or a female cut off her breasts and says that she is a man, that is a form of female genital mutilation. This vis-a-vis the same thing as what Africans practice, which is wrong, which is very young.
Okay, so hold on. Okay, I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. So you are telling me a person who believes in God.
Which God?
I believe in I believe Jesus is the Son of God.
That's for you. I don't buy that. I do not buy that.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not asking. I'm not telling you to believe. I'm telling you what I believe.
It has nothing to do with me.
Okay.
It's none of my business.
We can't do that. We can't do that. We can't do that.
You can't drag me into your system of belief.
You can't tell me what I believe.
I'm not
asking you to believe what I believe.
To believe that.
I'm not asking you to believe it.
Okay.
I'm telling you what I believe.
That's your business.
That's right. But I'm telling you the way I'm looking at this. You're telling me that if a man wants to cut off his penis, I should care.
No. It's none of my business. It's none of your business.
Okay, so if it's none of your business, why are we talking about it?
No, the reason why I brought that up is, Bro Diallo continuously says that this, actually, it's in light of the topic of today, those who are persecuted or something like that, like even in the African community, we should actually say to it that this is an is wrong. It is wrong. And
why do we care?
We should care. We should have normal and
gender
abnormal.
affirming surgery. Gender affirming surgery does not qualify as genital mutilation.
Because they're choosing
genital
to do it.
Mutilation is literally doing that procedure to someone who is not able to consent, meaning they're under the age of consent when the procedure is done, or against their consent.
Not true.
Where can I find your definition of genital mutilation?
Mutilation is a word.
I asked you where you get your definition of genital mutilation from.
It's called female genital.
I asked you where you got your definition from. I know what
Look
it's
it up
called.
on Google, Radialo. Mutilation is a word.
I understand that mutilation is a word.
Let me ask you a question. I'm finna try to do to you what Diallo be doing to me. So today,
support and you got the support and brotherly love and solidarity with this brother. Okay.
I went to the store today and I bumped into a lady, right? And I was like, I know you. Ain't your name Jenny?
Oh, dude.
And the lady was like, yes. And she was like, I want to hug you, but I just had a breast reduction, so I can't hug you. Was she mutilated?
That is a form of mutilation.
She don't get to decide.
No. Google the word mutilation. Google it.
So all word is mutilation.
It's like saying the word Holocaust is reserved for the Jews only. The Holocaust is a word. It is a word to describe an atrocity. So when we say Holocaust was committed, we cannot say the Jews are the only ones that Holocaust were committed against. No.
Okay, but Oak.
Yes.
If you developed a tumor in your colon, would
yes.
you allow them to mutilate you to remove the tumor?
That's yes. It's
okay. Can I ask you another question, Oak? if you develop gynecomastia,
Yes.
would you allow yourself to have a mastectomy?
If that is what you want to do, go ahead.
No,
yes.
I'm asking you personally. If you develop gynecomastia,
okay,
would you get a mastectomy?
yes.
But so you are in favor and you support genital mutilation for purposes of gender affirmation.
No.
You just said you would get a mastectomy if you develop gynecomastia.
That's
no. Don't make me mute you. You just said that you will be willing to get a mastectomy if you develop gynecomastia, right?
Yes.
So you support genital mutilation as you define it in support of affirming your gender identity.
Not true. I guess.
How is wait.
Okay.
If you do you know what gynecomastia is?
Of course.
What is it?
And growing of the breast of a man having.
So but why would you have them cut off if you grew them?
The difference, bro, just listen to this. The difference
why would you? Because listen, is that not?
Let me explain.
Whoa. So you can have gender affirming procedures.
That's not affirming. It's not affirming my gender.
Why would you have the procedure then?
What are you saying? If I am a man,
should men have breast? Should men have breast?
You can have breast because of
different
reasons.
Do you believe that men should have breast?
If it's as a result of complications of...
I didn't ask as a result. Should men have breast? Yes or no?
That's a compounded question.
Okay, you believe under certain circumstances that it is appropriate for men to have breast?
No.
Huh?
Let me explain. I have to explain.
Do you believe under certain circumstances that men?
No. It's not about got you. I have to explain, bro.
You're not explaining anything.
It's simple.
You're literally rambling.
Hold on. Let me explain this one.
Incorrect.
No.
And you should just say, listen. You think the only appropriate state of being is for two gender. And for a man to be heterosexual and to conduct himself physically and socially and culturally as masculinity is defined as you would probably say in Yoruba culture, right? And vice versa for women, correct?
That's your own context.
No, I'm asking you. That was a question.
What's the question?
Okay, so if you're not going to listen, why would I listen to you? Painful as it is, I'm suffering listening to you.
Bro, you're wrong.
You won't listen to me back. You're not listening to me.
I am listening to you. You're not.
I'll ask you another question.
Okay,
let me ask you a series of simple yes or no questions.
Okay.
To get to your understanding. There are only two genders, correct?
Correct.
Anyone who deviates from those two standard genders as you define them are mentally ill. Correct?
They are
correct? Yes or no?
No.
They're not mentally ill.
No.
Oh, good. So when someone who is functional deviates from your standard concept of two genders, and they deviate from that, should they be allowed to receive services to help affirm that deviation from your two gender concept?
Is that a yes? No.
Yes, Christ.
These questions are.
I'm asking you a series of questions to try to gain what you're understanding, because you're not making sense, because you're being extremely inconsistent. You're confusing and conflating concepts of pathology, mental illness, gender identity, gender confirmation. You have a very limited concept and scope of gender. You are trying to use and abuse concepts of tradition, history, and African identity to justify your conclusions. I don't think you're honest with the audience or with me about your conclusions and motivations. And you want to sound as though you're being scientific and you have some level of concern for these people when you're not being scientific and you're trying to shade your discord. You can get on here and say, I don't like gays, I don't like transgender. You can come on here and say boom bye bye and a bati boy. You can come on here and just be freaking honest. And if you come on here not trying to be scientific, because you're not, not try to couch this in African when you are speaking strictly from a Western perspective and point of view, from everything from gender to persecution of gays and homosexuals, as Skip cleverly and correctly pointed out. If there was no word, there was no persecution. You can't persecute something you don't even have a concept of. So if there was no persecution of Africans, of no indigenous persecutions of gays and homosexuals, because there was even no word for it, then that persecution must have been injected or brought to the continent.
Bro Diallo.
If you're a hypocrite because you're willing to engage in gender affirming procedures, but want to call somebody else out for doing the same thing.
No, don't respond, because I'm gonna have to cut you out. Andy been waiting for a long time. He whooped you tonight, bro. But when you come back,
no,
in a heterosexual masculine way.
Yeah, he whooped you. But it's cool. It's cool. Like people saying, people were saying he whooped me earlier. Like, you know, like you got put on your pockets, and you'll come back next week. You got put on your pockets, bro. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Conversing. I kept quiet so you can talk.
Yeah, because you way out of here, bro. Hey, but we appreciate you calling in. We'll hear from you next week. But you got put on your pockets tonight.
No, that's not true.
Okay. What's happening, Andy?
Yo, what's going on, y'all? Oak took like 10 years out of me.
What'd you say?
I said Oak took 10 years out of me.
Oh yeah, hey man, Oak out of control, man. That boy said that they been hating homosexuals in Africa, but they had no word for it. That's crazy.
I hate whatever you are, I hate.
I just.
All right, so yeah, this is the first time speaking to you, Skip.
For real.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm speaking to Skip. Diallo, I met you in Baltimore. I was with you and Dr. Mingo in the car.
You never gave me no gas money.
I know, but I mean, it is what it is. Y'all nice to have a hybrid car and electricity. I had to take a bus to get out there, so that's So I see y'all living the high life, and y'all went to hotels, 5-star hotels, and Dr. Mingo bragged in front of me about it. So it's like, that's why I felt like I ain't got it.
You know how we do.
That's how you live.
Yeah, they had a new car too, and had a new car smell too. But my question is gonna be real quick. So I got in a recent debate with a close relative of mine, and I know the answer to this, but I just wanted to hear y'all take on it. My question was, globally, right? Who has done more harm in the name of? Like, who has done more harm? Islam or feminism globally? Like, which particular ideology or which particular worldview has done more harm? And this is not me trying to justify any kind of attack towards anybody that might practice Islam. This is not me being sexist. Me personally, I know my answer. I just wanted to hear y'all take. Like, which do you think is causing more harm? Which particular ideology? Like, who is like? And that's really my question. If y'all get my question.
It's easy. That's really easy. Islam is causing more harm in every conceivable and perceptible way than feminism, number one. But I'd like to add to that.
Can I ask him a question first?
Oh, okay. So you need clarity and all that.
Yeah. Andy, what is feminism?
Feminism, my definition of it is
we can't go by your definition. What is feminism?
Feminism is I'm taking on Webster's, the equality between sexes.
Oh, okay. According to your definition, as I was about to say this anyway, I don't define feminism as a harmful ideology. I often say that it is inadequate. Like I said, you need revolutionary or anarcho-feminism. Feminism alone to me is like civil rights or gay integration. It is an integrationist movement. So my issues with feminists and feminism is that it doesn't go far enough.
Yeah.
You know, that's my issue with feminism. I think that if you're going to be a feminist, you have to be an anarcho, communist, something. Just feminism alone, as you said, equality between the sexes. That means we get Golda Meir, Madeleine Albright, Margaret Thatcher. What's the girl with the pearls and the chucks?
Kamala Harris, Le Pen, all these crazy.
Right. So you have feminism without a qualifying ideology or a radicalizing or revolutionary slant to it. You get girl boss CEO. You get that female cop that kicked in that brother's door and blew his brains out in his own living room. That's feminism. And even many feminists, that's why you have the whole I'm a black feminist, or I'm a third wave feminist. Even the feminists are realizing that standard feminism and women getting the right to vote and getting the do what a man do, Rosie the Riveter type shit is inadequate. So I don't think it's harmful. I would say it's inadequate. Where I think Islam and its teachings and its concepts and the philosophies is harmful and has done a lot of harm.
I want to know what was your answer, Andy?
My answer was I got to know the content of the feminists. That was just my argument, and even then, and I was also saying I like feminism really, really, really for real is only probably a century old, if that, really, really for real. If you want to be honest, some kind of, or even the one that we take for equality of the. I mean, it's still relatively new to me. I could be wrong about that, but
yeah. So that's why I wanted to ask, what was the definition of it? Because I'm trying to understand what about Diallo's wife? What about Chitty Matcha be in the chat? What about any of these folks having the ability to make decisions for themselves is bad?
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like some people want to pontificate, and I feel like on the internet there's a phenomenon of people are grabbing on to certain memes that the right is sharing. The right will usher in harmful, pathological ways of looking at the world, and it gains more traction. So it's more easier for people to gravitate to something that's right there.
Right.
Feminism
So
one of them.
That's the reason why when the guy, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, bro, that came on first was talking about buck breaking. And I was like, I just don't really know why we talking about this thing. And Dunn offered, a really strong response to that. I don't necessarily agree. But I just want to keep pushing us to recognize that if we keep getting distracted and keep wandering into the weeds around arguing things that are nonsensical and non-impactful in our communities, we end up spending a lot of time on that and not really having a conversation about the things that are really important in our communities. So this idea of feminism being bad when ultimately it is women not being property. I just find it very challenging.
Well, the problem with feminism is feminism allows for Beyonce to open up a sweatshop for her Ivy Park.
Right.
And then celebrate that as girl empowerment. So women can be property under feminism.
Well, this is the thing that I would say to that. I think you're largely right, but the only little piece of nuance I would add is as much like when folk will be saying that black men reap benefits under patriarchy, and my response is always, you can only reap those benefits if you're upholding to the capitalist oppression of folk that are already supposed to be oppressed. Like the end of my benefits of patriarchy are if I try to touch a white woman. Like I can be as oppressive and as dominant as I want to be in my community to my women, but let me leave my community and go to snatching up and raping and pillaging white women, where patriarchy then steps up and does something. So I can only be upholding to patriarchy to reap any benefit of it. So I don't necessarily see that it works out the same way. So when we're talking about, well, feminism means that you're free to make a choice to open a sweatshop. Yeah, you can, right?
Well, that's why integrationists, I have a principled stance against all integrationist movement. Any population of oppressed people that seek equality with their oppressors or seek to elevate within the systems and institutions of their oppressors, that is an integrationist movement. So civil rights, gay rights, women's rights, or feminist movements, they are inadequate. Even that's why I got into a fight, but we don't have to abandon the fundamental concepts of feminism. We have to radicalize and revolutionize. That's the same thing with liberalism. People are like, oh, I hate liberals. And I say, well, if you look at liberalism, the concept of liberalism, participatory government, the concept of capitalism, even the concept of innovation, technology, developing even business, markets and business predate capitalism. But because capitalism and white hegemony has so inundated everything that we know, we can't even conceptualize these things separate from. So, there are radical, anarcho, revolutionary feminists who don't seek to elevate or create opportunities for women under capitalism, but to obliterate the capitalism and destroy all unjust hierarchies. So that's the problem. So I think that we critique feminism, and I have quite a few essays that I've written in critique of feminism, and then the manosphere comes in like, yeah, you're right, these women, these females. But my problem is they don't go far enough. They don't go far enough. It's not that they go too far, or women want too much. No, I think that women should go further and ask for more. Just like African people, I don't think getting the vote, being equal, sitting on the front of the bus and having black CEOs and black billionaires, as Jay-Z seeks to be, I think that's woefully inadequate. Or for gay, that you saw that image of all the first all gay helicopter crew for the Navy, where there was a whole attack helicopter crew where everyone on that crew identified the navigator, the pilot, the gunner. They all identified as members of the LGBTQ community. Or you go to the private and there's a rainbow cop car in the.
I see that. That I see.
So that's the problem where Gloria Steinem was on the CIA payroll.
Yeah.
And that shit can exist under feminism. So all of our ideologies and all of our values, even if they're good or just, have to be radical and revolutionary, or they will be integrated into or co-opted by the system.
Indeed.
Yeah. So like that's the thing. Like I think we just gotta be,
Yeah, and our job, if our sisters come and say, sisters ain't getting our due in the struggle, in the community, in the society, we're not getting our due. Our job is not to tell them you're asking for too much, or you getting in the way, or you getting up front. You say you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I don't see no problem with that.
Show me your list of demands and let me add on to that. For sure. So, or let me integrate your list of demands into and prioritize them within the revolutionary struggle.
But yeah,
full agreement.
I just think we gotta get to where we don't. I think Diallo did a really good job of it with the show, like Help the Bear. I think maybe we could use some of these things as like an intro to a much larger point. I think is a really good idea. But talking about some of these things is like, I mean, no disrespect, but it's nonsensical. Like, what do we mean? And I say this as a person who believes in Jesus, right? Like, who accepts the divinity of Jesus. There's no way that we can say what has done more damage in community, Christianity or feminism. Like, that's nonsensical. Like, of course it's Christianity. Of course it's Islam. Of course, like slavery, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we talking about?
Exactly.
Can I tell you, everything that you think is a problem of feminism or a negative impact of feminism, if you pull back the curtain, if you or the Scarecrow or the Lion or the Tin Man pull back the curtain behind what you're blaming feminism for doing, whether it's the destruction of the Black family or whatever, or low birth, or you will find behind that curtain will be capitalism, white hegemony, patriarchy, alienization as a byproduct of capitalist production.
I said that. I did that.
That's radicalism, looking at things as the core. And feminism is a response to oppression, not a source of oppression. So even if you have someone responding or reacting to an oppressive condition, if you think their reaction is not appropriate or effective, you still have to make sure your enemy and your target is the what provoked that response.
Yeah.
As you try to correct that inaccurate or inadequate response, as you correct it. Because I talk a lot about these street gangs, but I understand that if every brother renounced their gangs and renounced their set tomorrow, we would still be under genocide. So I still have to look at the core of the issue, not just the symptom or the output of the system. You have to look at the production level and the origin or the germ seed of the system. That's radicalism.
Hey, Andy, it was great having you on, bro. I mean, please feel free to come back. Yeah, man. Like,
don't let these females bring you down, King.
Nah, I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
All right.
Don't let them take your black job or your man job.
Man, that's crazy. Hey, man, I do want to just say the chat is going crazy. Shout out to y'all. Arguing with strangers.
We gotta wrap this up. What did it say?
Yeah, man. I'm through.
Okay.
Hey, man, I love you, bro. I really appreciate you.
Love you too.
Right
appreciate you. Look forward to coming to your hood. I ain't checking in. I just gotta tell you.
Hey, listen, I'm trying to figure out. I know 2 vegan spots. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to.
In Jackson, Mississippi. Good. You know a good place. I can get some spurs and a saddle.
What you gonna put them on? But yeah, I do actually know a
down
place.
south. I'm going, but the dirty. Anyway, I really look forward to it. So anyway, I got to get on that too. It's so much to do. I'll be in New York next weekend. I don't know, next week. So looking forward to that as well. But you can close us out and we can go get some rest.
Hey, man, for sure. Hey, thank you for, as we often pray, our health and our safety, our community, those people that love us and know us, pray for us and keep us. Thank you for understanding and community and a space to wrestle with the things that really matter. Thank you for a community that wants to be better, that wants to be free, and is willing to do the work necessary to have it.
Ashe.
Right on.
All right.
Hey, man, hit my line, bro.
All right. Don't spend too much money. Be careful with the fireworks tomorrow, man.
Can't wait.
Celebrate the birth of your beloved nation.